she wanted a guitar, and we didn't get her a guitar, and she was so upset that we didn't get her the guitar, only for me to get up and go to the bedroom, and there was her guitar and bring it out.
We saved it for her. We were just trying to torture her.
And her attitude was terrible the whole morning opening up gifts because she didn't see a big box, a big guitar case that would have had her guitar.
And we were ready to say, we're taking it back to the store because you have zero respect for your parents.
Hello and welcome to another edition and episode of our Family Business Podcast with the Alessis. Mary and I are here tonight, and we're doing something a little different. Here we are,
really different, yeah.
Coming to the end of season 4 of our podcast. And if you have not been able to join us yet, then subscribe to us on all of the podcast platforms, especially YouTube, where you not only get to listen to it in your car, but you get to watch us on YouTube if you're doing so. And Mary, we are here tonight.
Yes.
Pretty exciting. It's just going to be you and I at the podcast table.
I love it.
And our audience tonight's a little different.
It's a whole lot different.
What are we doing?
We are at our Christmas Lightfest at our Dayland campus, and there are people everywhere enjoying the light. Some are watching us right here, which is really neat. We have an ice skating rink over there that's filled with kids and teenagers, and people sitting behind us that are just enjoying, I don't know, maybe some pizza that they got out front or some popcorn. But this place is surrounding us with Christmas lights, and it's beautiful.
It is. And I think we have some snow.
We have snow every half hour, I think.
Every 30 minutes we have snow.
It may snow while we're doing this.
Yeah. Now, before we started our Lightfest tonight, we also had something that we were able to do as a church for all of our single moms. Tell us about that.
We've done this, I think we're going on our 14th year, but we had our single moms event, which is where we honor the single moms of our church with their children, and we recreate Christmas Day for them. Mm-hmm. And our church gets together and sponsors these kids, which are our kids. They're all our kids, and we so honor these single moms because they really do let the church fill in the gap for them if there is one. And so we were able to celebrate with them. Santa was here. Mrs. Claus was here. They got to ice skate. They got the whole experience with them and their kids for 2 hours, the whole park to themselves. And we had some amazing volunteers that have such a heart for it in our church that served. And it was just magical every time.
It has been. A big shout out and thank you to our staff who's working triple time.
Yes, they are.
Not overtime, double time, triple time, working super hard.
Yes.
But also the volunteers, so many of them coming around and just making this whole Light Fest, what it used to be for us when we would sell Christmas trees or do something around Halloween as a church, and we would be out in the community. It was a great way for us in those early years as a church to come together to impact the community. And we see this happening every night that we're open here. Tonight, one of the neighbors
this was cool.
Was able to come over because last night they heard the music. And
what
happened last night? The stage that we're on recording our podcast was what?
Was our live Christmas concert, Christmas at Church. We released a brand new CD this year called Christmas at Church with 8 Christmas songs that are amazing. And so we did the live show, sang all the songs, and we had a big audience out here. And because we took it outside, the neighbors got to hear us, and we actually had a neighbor that lives pretty far. She's across the street, but she's way down, and she could hear the music. It was in a straight shot. The speaker was for her, so she got to hear it in her home, and she brought her daughter out today, stayed for several hours, and had a great time. And that's what it's about. It's letting the community know we are here. We're taking the church out of the 4 walls into the community.
We like doing that.
We love it.
Matter of fact, tonight was cool. I met a guy out just coming in, and he says, "So what's your name?" I said, "Steve." He says, "Oh, I'm Steve too." He says, "Steve what?" I said, "Steve Alessi." He says, "What?" I said, "Steve Alessi." He says, "I'm Steve Alexis."
Come on. Okay,
so you never know.
You never know. You
the
might
people
meet.
that you get to meet, and it's so cool. But Mary, how did this idea of a Light Fest come about?
Oh my goodness. Well, you know me. I love to do fun things. If it's not fun, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
And so I knew, and we've been discussing that we really needed to do something big for this campus. Our Doral campus has had a lot of events over the years. We've done a lot of big things, and we needed to do that at this campus for this particular community. And we were at a market a year ago, and Rochelle, our daughter-in-law, happened to walk into this wholesale lighting place. And she said, look at all these lights. This is so beautiful. And I said, yeah, but you got to do it by yourself. Who knows how to string all those lights? But in that moment, it was like, we need to do something for the community. The very next door was a company that you could partner with called the Christmas Decor Group, and they come out and they install. So I called you right in that moment, and sight unseen, you were, hey, let's do it. Let's get it done. And the idea was really kind of out of a need to say, what can we do to take Christmas back too?
Yeah.
Because we'd been so separated after COVID. There's so many Hallmark movies, but it's not our values anymore. It's really not leading people back to the real heart of Christmas, the story of Christmas, which is Christ. And so we said, let's do something for the community that helps us get back to the real reason for the season, and sponsor with some people, partner with some people in our community and in our church. And it just happened so quickly. And I don't want to use the word it happened easily, but we didn't have to strive and we didn't have to work that hard. And the next thing I knew, here we are. Yeah. And we have just met some amazing people. And what we really think was the purpose behind this is to let the community know that there is a resource for them in the form of a church.
Yeah. I just can't believe we're doing this tonight. I mean, I look around and I see people just walking, finding their place, connecting. You're seeing happy smiles on kids. This ice rink over here, these kids are on it. Some of them stay on it for hours.
I know.
They have so much fun. Parents are pulling their kids out of here when it's over. They don't want to leave.
No,
some of them keep coming back. We met a lady last night, I think it was. She has been here to almost every one of them, at least every week that we've been doing this. And I think this is our third or fourth week getting it done.
Yeah.
And she's been here every week, excited about it, and just wants to be a part of the celebration of Christmas.
It's awesome.
Which, you mentioned making this. You were in Atlanta because you really wanted to take back Christmas.
Yes.
Because you felt as though during COVID we lost something.
We did.
So we were in all this lockdown. They were keeping us from even trying to congregate at church on Sundays. But then when that first Christmas during COVID came around, people were locked down. They still weren't comfortable coming back out. And you lock people up for 3 or 6 months, man. It's hard for them to go re-engage back in the community.
It is.
And so you thought, no, we need to do this.
Yeah.
We need to take back Christmas, which started you going to the wholesale area there in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And you bought all of these gifts
Yes.
to come back, and these Christmas ornaments, Christmas trees, everything Christmas decor. You started with opening up a
Christmas store. Yeah.
Tell us why you ultimately did it.
So that was the first year. That was just last year. And we called the whole Christmas theme Come Home for Christmas, because that was the point. Come home for Christmas. And we feel like the church is home.
Yeah.
Church is where home is. And so when we decided to open the Christmas store, I had no idea that it would be what it became. Yep. And it turned out to be a really amazing experience. And it did do that. It brought people back to the local church. Steve, there's enough difficulty after COVID just getting back with your family members. There was so much fear, so much separation, so much anxiety that people had, not wanting to spend the holidays. And they had already missed holidays. Some people, they had loved ones who passed away, and they weren't even able to see their family for the holidays. And we had done, I wouldn't say we had done a funeral service, but we had like a memorial service the year before, where we had family members that had been affected with COVID and had lost loved ones. And I thought, isn't that, it's just so tragic that what we have given our lives for, which is the local church, that has brought so much joy, has brought so much unity, has saved so many families. Where are we? Are we scattered forever? And so when the idea of Come Home for Christmas came and we did the Christmas store, it was like, okay, where do we go from here? And we got to take this outside. But it brought people back. And now, not only did it bring people back, but this year we're getting to meet new people that we'd never met before.
Yeah, and why do you want to go all out for Christmas? I mean, in our family, we do. We love going all out. It's not just a holiday to us.
Right.
We really want to celebrate with our family.
Right.
Why do you think that is for us?
I think, well, for our family specifically, is that we value family time. We value when we can just, we said it in several podcasts. We plan our holidays as a family. We make sure that we schedule and we plan, because so many people don't. They just don't plan. And then the holiday goes by and they go, oh, there goes another Christmas, and I'm miserable, and we didn't do anything, and I wanted to put the tree up, and I had wanted to have turkey and have the family over, and that didn't go right, and planning is so important to our family, and we've noticed that when we plan, we have peace.
Yeah.
Because the expectations are met. So it's important for us because Christ is at the center of everything we do, and Christmas is all about Christ.
Right. Well, glad we're doing this tonight. It's so good to be able to look around and just see people walking, strolling, having fun.
Yeah.
This is what it's all about for us. The Family Business Podcast is really, it's our family being in business together, which is our ministry, because all of our kids are involved with us, our adult kids. But the other part of that is, we say, and our tagline is, there's a Family Business Podcast because family is everybody's business.
Business, right.
The business of family, or family should be run almost like a business. You got to have goals. You got to have
vision.
You got to have
core
conversation,
values.
communication. So much of that is why we have this podcast, because we talk about some of our own challenges that we go through as a family, and we also talk about how to engage as a family, things that are going on even across the country, socially. How do we deal with some of these things that are out there? It gets a little controversial from time to time. But what we like our people to do is from time to time, while you're watching us, listening to us as our audience, go in and ask us questions. You can do that. You can send us requests when you go to the website. You can do all of that, which you can find in our podcast material. But that being the case, I have some questions here.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
And I want to throw it out. So this is for our audience to get to know us a little bit better. Okay, for you, what was your most memorable Christmas?
Oh, boy. I sound like a Hispanic, and I'm not. I just said, ay. Let's see. My most memorable Christmas as a kid, I'll have to go back to as a kid, was when my parents rented this house that was supposed to be really cool in North Carolina, and we got there, and it was awful.
Uh-oh.
And it had no heat. And it was freezing, and then we had to go outside and cut down our own Christmas tree, which was the best.
Yeah.
And we popped popcorn because we forgot to bring. It was just one of those horrible scenarios. Everything just kept getting worse. We forgot the ornaments at home. But I can tell you, of all the Christmases I had, that is the one I remember the most. We went out in the back and we cut down this tree and we brought it in, and it was so beautiful, and it was freezing cold. And then on Christmas Day, I don't know what my parents were thinking. They thought we would go out to lunch, and we could not find a restaurant that was open. And my mom cried. She was so sad because we couldn't have our, regular Christmas lunch, because she's an amazing cook. But then we ended up like going to the Waffle House or something. And what's so funny is it's the one I remember.
It's one that stands out in your mind.
The worst one for my parents turned out to be the most memorable one for me.
Gosh,
what
man,
about you?
All of ours just run together.
I know.
And it's hard to remember the ones as a kid because we had so many fun Christmases with our kids. And,
I know, it's true.
Oh, my gosh. We looked at videos not too long ago, and we saw how the kids responded. And what we do remember is early years on, we always said, no, we're not going to spend that much money for the kids, but we did
it every time.
All the time. Way too much money for the kids.
I want to ask our audience a question. Do they do what we do? You start off with a budget, and then you say, this is it. Only this much per kid. We are not going over this year. And we start right.
Yep.
And then somehow, because we buy early and we stick within our budget, we neglect to stay to our budget, because then we go to the mall the week before Christmas and we've got to buy this added thing and that added thing. And then before we know it, we've gone over our budget. Every year. Yeah. We still do it.
That's why Januaries were terrible for me.
It's terrible for you.
Why?
Because you have to pay the credit card bill when it comes in.
It's terrible. Man, I knew January was coming after all of that. And,
I know.
But I do remember that one Christmas where Stephanie, she wanted a guitar, and we didn't.
Our second daughter, the one that was on the podcast last week.
Yeah. She wanted a guitar, and we didn't get her a guitar, and she was so upset that we didn't get her the guitar, only for me to get up and go to the bedroom, and there was her guitar, and bring it out.
We saved it for her. We were just trying to torture her.
Her attitude was terrible the whole morning opening up gifts, because she didn't see a big box, a big guitar case that would have had her guitar.
And we were ready to say, we're taking it back to the store, because you have zero respect for your parents.
Hey, help me out on this. This is a little bit more personal. Somebody asked us this. Yvette says, as pastors, what has been your biggest challenge?
You go first.
I think our heart attack.
Yeah.
Back when I had the heart attack in 2007, first thing we're thinking, because we started our church in 97, so 10 years into our church, I had this widowmaker heart attack. And that's when we had to say, let's put a pause on pastoring.
Right.
A pause on our business.
Yes, that was difficult.
Let's put a pause on that for at least 6 weeks till I get better, get healthy, be able to get back in the game.
Yeah.
I think for us, we realized, here's how we were able to overcome that particular challenge. Number one, as a family, we knew we needed to take care of each other. So you were focused on me. I was focused on myself. How do I get through this? What in the world just happened?
Yeah.
Hit all those times with the paddles, my heart trying to stop, but those paramedics wouldn't let that happen. 42 minutes, they work on me. So we came out thinking the first thing we got to do is figure out, let's focus on each other. When you're going through a hard time in life, I think it's important that you look to the people that are closest to you and find strength from one another. If you were not strong, I wouldn't have been able to survive.
Right.
Because that was much mental as it was physical. Because on the other side of that heart attack, I started to feel old. I was only 7 at the time?
Right.
And I started to feel old. But I needed to cease from you that I wasn't done. I wasn't washed up. I wasn't
just
old.
Getting started. Yeah.
Life was going on. That was just a hiccup. So you got to look to each other, I think, first of all, if we're going to overcome some challenges. Second of all, you got to trust the people around you.
Yeah.
When we were going through that period, our staff stepped up and did the good things. Our pastor, Pastor Mike, came in town. He told all our staff, listen, whatever your problems may be over the next 6 to 8 weeks, you resolve them.
Yeah.
Don't you cause any issues for Steve and Mary. Let them heal. But you guys, don't you dare get in trouble. Don't you go through anything right now to cause any hardship. And there was hardship going on back at the home base. We didn't know it because they wouldn't let us in, which allowed us to say, you know what, I can trust our staff.
Exactly.
So when we go through hard times, yes, you've got the God factor, because the only way you're going to ultimately survive is put your trust in God. But as a couple in the flesh, we got to depend on each other.
Yeah.
You got to look around and depend on the people that
are in
the
your
Lord
life.
has allowed
That's
you
right.
to come up alongside of you in life, which is why relationships to us is so important.
Yeah.
Because we need them. What would you say about that?
I would say overall, that was a tough one. But as a pastor's wife in ministry, probably the biggest challenge that most pastors face, and pastors' wives face, is just being all things to all people, what the expectation is of the job and the role.
Yeah.
And that's a difficult thing because you wonder, am I just myself? Who am I supposed to be? What do they need me to be? What do the congregation want their pastor's wife to be or their pastor to be?
Yeah.
And understanding, and now having pastored for 30 plus years, the best gift we give ourselves and the people in our lives, period, is just being who we are in God. So that was definitely a challenge in the beginning, and it isn't easy to get over those hurdles of feeling like, am I enough? Am I godly enough? Do I know enough of the word? Am I leading enough? Is this what they need? Am I helping our church enough? Am I bringing enough to the table? Just that's a challenge that you have to overcome and just be settled in who you are and who God says you are. And the Lord, like you said, He'll bring you the right people that will help support that. And not put an expectation on you that you can't fulfill and that you're not called to fulfill.
Well, you're listening to our podcast here at our Lightfest, and there's people walking all over the place, which is really fun to see and have them do this. So continuing, let me ask you this. This one was a little bit more specific about family and the future. It says, how do you manage expectation of your future wife's family? So forget the future wife.
Yeah.
How about how do you manage the expectations of your in-laws?
Oh, man, that is not a Christmas question. Wow, that's a tough one. Are you asking me?
Yes,
Do I have to
'cause
go
no
first?
idea. I'm not good at this one.
This is a tough question. Who wrote this? Anonymous wrote
Anonymous,
this.
they wouldn't put it down there.
Oh, my gosh. How do you manage the expectation of your wife's family or your husband's family? I think that is something that is a process over time. Honest conversations.
Totally.
I personally feel, and we have this rule, that it is my responsibility to manage my family. It is not your responsibility to deal and manage with your in-laws and vice versa. You have always been very good about understanding that's my mom, my dad, my family members. I will speak to them. I will manage that, even on my behalf, and vice versa.
Yeah.
And so there's just lines you do not cross to protect the marriage and the relationship. So I think even of the question, how do I personally manage the expectations of your family? That's missing the mark. I don't. That's not my job. That's not my role.
Right.
So that's your job with your family and my job with my family. And sometimes as a wife, I've had to say over the years, not, we've been married a long time, but in the beginning I'd say, well, we can't do that. And not, oh, Steve doesn't want to. That doesn't work for our family. Yep. We have to be on each other's team, and the in-laws have to respect and understand that.
Yeah. Something as simple as this. We were talking to the kids the other day, our adult kids, and I was referring to one of them saying, why don't you invite one of the in-laws, why don't you invite your family? And he said, well, Stephanie did.
Right.
I said, no, your mom does not want to get the invite.
That's right.
From Stephanie.
That's right.
To come and attend something. She wants to hear from you. And I remember that with my own mom. It's like, wait a minute.
We had to learn that.
How can I expect my mom to respond wholeheartedly if her daughter-in-law is doing it? She's thinking, wait a minute, where's my son? How come my son, if this is that important,
why isn't he inviting me?
He inviting me?
That's right.
So it's good, back to what you said, it's not up to you to manage your future spouse's in-laws. It's on you.
That's it.
You manage your parents.
And she manages hers.
He'll manage his.
Come on, somebody. That's a good word.
All right. Here's another one.
Okay.
This is more down to our work in the church. Somebody asks, how can I follow up my Sunday teachings with my kids? Now, this was written from somebody. They say they don't feel equipped to answer some of the questions that the kids are asking.
Yes.
So how do we take the information the kids are learning on Sunday and get it reinforced during the week?
There's all kinds of ways. First of all, I would encourage, from a practical perspective, for those parents that do feel ill-equipped to take their own Bible studies. They need to do small studies where they're learning themselves. Sit down with their child. And I also want to say this, learn your own Bible-based, get your own knowledge, your own education. That's very important. Be faithful to the house of God. But don't let that be a stumbling block for you, and don't let your kids think they're smarter than you. Don't let them think they know more than you, because then you can start creating some pride in your child. So don't. You
may have to fake it till you make it.
Fake it till you make it. And if they go, Mom, did you know what John 3:16 says? You go,
why don't you tell me?
You don't have to lie. There you go.
Let me let you say it.
Well, I want to hear you say it.
There you go.
Not to lie and say you do. But don't ever, give your position away with your children, because sometimes when you do that, there's just things that can happen in their mind. So don't ever feel ill-equipped. You don't have to be Bible man or Bible woman at home. The fact that you're bringing your kids to church and they're learning about the Word of God, God honors that, and He will bless you. And the best thing you do for yourself is just to have your own time of study where you are learning and growing in the Word.
It's no different than when your kid goes to school.
Oh,
they come
math.
home and they're learning math, and maybe you never picked up on that. So, you're asking them their opinion, their thoughts on it. And that's the same. I think the big part there, the best answer to that would be communication.
Yeah.
Ask your kid what they learned. And if they tell you something they learned, then figure out a way as an adult to reinforce it during the week.
Sure.
Somewhere, some way, reinforce what they had learned on Sunday. You don't have to know all the answers or all the Bible verses. You don't have to know all those things. To this day, my kids bring up stuff and talk to me about it in the Bible that I forgot.
Yeah. Or you'll reference check. You'll go, wait a second, hold on. No, of course.
So it's good that our kids are learning. It's good that our kids want to come home and ask us or want to share it with us. That's where we got to stop and say, you know what? Let me listen to what you learned.
Yes.
Tell me about it. And then reinforce it. And then there may be times when your kid learns a lesson on maybe being selfish.
Sure.
And you see them being selfish. It's a good time to be able, now that you know that they have learned that lesson, it's a good time for you to go back and reinforce what they learned and show them, wait, remember that teacher taught you that in Sunday school or in your class? So that's really good. So I think as a parent, you could definitely reinforce it. What you don't want to do is just make it one and done. They come to church. You go to your big church, and now when you get in the car, that's the last thing you talk about. is what you learned in church. You go home, you can't wait to watch the game, can't wait to get them to soccer practice or dance, get them ready for school. And all that crowds out the good information that they had just learned while they were there at church. So, all right, you got anything you want to say on that?
And I just want to say that stopping for a minute and paying attention to what your child learned on Sunday and sitting down and reading it for yourself and then talking about it and having your Bible as a reference could be one of the sweetest, most godly moments you'll ever have with your kids. So don't let it intimidate you, ever. Don't be intimidated by that. Grow from it.
Good. All right. This is another one of these church questions. It says, my mom is hesitant to invite an aunt and grandma to church. They both go to the Catholic church, which they're comfortable with, but I don't think that's all there is to their relationship with God. I feel like they could be better if they came to a church like Metro. So what should I tell her?
You know, we get this a lot. This is a question that families ask because they would love to go to church together as a family. It's powerful what it does to your family if you could have a day just to be with your family would be awesome.
Right.
But to be able to go to the house of God together and to really grow in the knowledge of the Lord, and it's not just a religious symbol or a ceremonial thing, but it's something that's real and tangible, and to experience that as a family, I think that's where I would come from. There's a lady that just started coming to the church that gave some great advice. I went to lunch with her, and she said something that was so good. She married a man who was very strong in the Catholic faith from Italy, very strong Catholics. And in the first few years, his mom and grandmother would not speak to her because she started taking him to a Christian church.
Yeah.
And she didn't want to lose that. She didn't want them to hate her. So what she decided to do was go to the Catholic church with him, and then he would come to her church. And then with time, what ended up happening was the whole family ended up going to the Christian church.
Yeah.
Because they could all go together as a family, and they were growing, and they were learning the Word of God, and it was changing their lives. So I think we don't want to make an enemy out of any church or any institution.
Yeah.
I think that we have to give in order to receive a little bit. But I would appeal to it from that perspective. We're grateful that you go there. That's awesome. But what would it look like if we could all have this experience together? It'd be wonderful.
Yeah, invite. More than anything, just invite.
Right.
And when your kids have an event or something's going on at the church, something like the Lightfest, just invite them. Bring them out. Get them over here from an invite. Pick them up and bring them. We're seeing this happen right now with so many people whose members of our church are bringing them to this environment.
That's
and this one is a good one to come to. It's Christmas. It's celebratory. There is no division and lines of what one religion believes or the other doesn't. Hey, there's not even, I haven't heard anybody talk about politics here.
Not one person.
Wow. Nobody.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, right? So it's a very nice environment. Great place to introduce your family members to what would be the church that you find so enriches your life. I don't think you need to condemn. I don't think you need to judge. I think we got to be very careful there. You don't know what God's doing in a person's life.
No, it's true.
And God could use and speak to a person in the Catholic Church.
You're right.
And teach them and show them.
That's
and so they're little by little walking out that salvation experience, which means this: you be good to them. You walk out your Christian experience.
That's right.
You be that godly example, and in front of them, lead by example, not by parking space.
Yeah.
Don't let it be what you say, let it be what you do, and you'll be amazed at the attention that you will find your family members giving to you. So
I like that.
Ma'am, good questions. I'm so thankful that you were able to ask and we could answer them for our Family Business Podcast. Mary and I are grateful for the opportunity to again be out here with our church family and some of those in the community, just to show them what we do at our podcast booth, where we are able to record these and share them from our perspective, because to us, family is everybody's business. So thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you were encouraged by this episode. And if we don't get the chance to share with you this again, we just pray that you have a very, very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, no matter when you are listening to this podcast. Thanks for joining us. God bless.
Hey there, if you enjoyed this episode of the Family Business Podcast with the Alessis, then you'll want to know we've got more insight, more encouragement, more great conversations that we can have on Sundays, and even some surprises coming your way. So you want to make sure you subscribe to our channel and watch one of these next videos here next, because remember, family is everybody's business.